Sometimes, ghosts don't live in abandoned asylums or ancient graveyards. Sometimes, they live right next door. This story happened in 2017 in a quiet apartment complex just outside Chicago, a place that looked normal, ordinary, until one woman realized she wasn't living there alone. Her name was Emily Carter, 28 years old, a nurse starting a new job at a local hospital. She just ended a long relationship and wanted a fresh start. Apartment 14B wasn't fancy, just a one-bedroom with pale yellow walls and old carpeting. But it was hers. The building had that strange, stale smell that old places have. Still, Emily liked it. The rent was cheap, the neighborhood was quiet, and the old woman at the front desk, Mrs. Lewinsky, told her that the last tenant left in a hurry. When she asked why, the woman just smiled nervously and said, "Some people don't like being alone." She laughed it off. The first night passed uneventfully, except for one thing. At around 3:12 a.m., Emily woke up to the sound of footsteps in the apartment above her. Slow, dragging steps. That wasn't unusual. It was an old building, after all. She rolled over and fell back asleep. But the next night, the same thing happened. 3:12 a.m., like clockwork. This time, the footsteps stopped right above her bedroom. And then she heard it, a thump, like someone had dropped something heavy on the floor. Then silence. When she mentioned it to her upstairs neighbor the next day, the woman frowned. She said, "I'm in 24B. No one's lived in 34B for months." 34B was directly above Emily's apartment. A few days later, Emily came home after a night shift. It was just after 2 a.m. when she noticed the smell.
It's worse here.
Rotten, like something spoiled. It seemed to come from the hallway leading to the bedroom. She checked everywhere. Garbage, sink, fridge, nothing. Then she realized the smell was stronger near the vent on her wall. She knelt down, put her hand over the vent, and froze. The air coming out was warm, and it smelled like blood. The maintenance man came the next morning. He shined a flashlight into the vent and frowned. He said, "Nothing there. Probably mold." But when he packed up his tools, Emily noticed something on the floor. A small gray button, old-fashioned, like from a nurse's uniform. She didn't own anything like it. That night, Emily woke up again at 3:12.
Hello?
Only this time, she didn't hear footsteps. She heard breathing. Slow, raspy, coming from the corner of her bedroom. Her eyes adjusted to the darkness, and for a second, she thought she saw something. A figure, crouched low, facing the wall. She blinked, and it was gone. She turned on the lamp and told herself it was just exhaustion. Night shifts, stress, imagination. That's all it was. But the next morning, she noticed something new. In the carpet, right near that corner, were small dark stains, as if someone had stood there with wet feet. Emily decided to prove to herself that she wasn't going crazy. She set her phone to record overnight, leaving it on her nightstand before going to sleep. The next morning, she played it back. Most of it was silence. The occasional car outside, the hum of the fridge. Then around 3:12 a.m., a faint click, the sound of her door unlocking. Then footsteps, slow, deliberate, crossing the room. And then a whisper, a woman's voice, low, almost inaudible, saying something over and over. Whisper, help me, please help me. Emily dropped her phone and ran to the building manager. But when they checked the security footage from that night, her door never opened. Mrs. Lewinsky finally told Emily the truth. Years ago, apartment 14B belonged to a woman named Margaret Doyle, a retired nurse who'd worked at St. Luke's Hospital in the 1960s. She lived alone after her husband died, and neighbors often heard her talking to herself late at night. When they finally checked on her, they found her body sitting in a chair by the window, her eyes open, her mouth twisted in a silent scream. She'd been dead for nearly a week. The coroner said she'd suffered a stroke, but the maintenance worker who cleaned the apartment refused to finish the job. He claimed the air vent in the bedroom breathed on him. No one stayed in 14B for long. Every tenant left within months. Emily was terrified, but determined to leave. She packed her things, ready to move out the next morning. That night, she slept on the couch, lights on. At 3:12 a.m., her phone buzzed. A notification. Motion detected. She'd forgotten the phone was still recording in the bedroom. She opened the live feed. The camera showed her empty bedroom. But in the corner, the same corner where she'd seen the figure, the air began to shimmer. And then she saw her. An old woman, wearing a faded nurse's uniform, her head tilted, her face gray and twisted, standing perfectly still. The woman opened her mouth, and the lights in the apartment flickered violently. Whisper, don't leave me. The feed cut to static. When Emily ran into the bedroom, it was empty. The smell of blood filled the air. She left that night and never returned. The apartment sat vacant for nearly a year. Eventually, it was rented to a young couple. They lasted 2 weeks. They told the landlord that every night they'd hear a woman crying in the vent. And when they checked the wall, someone had scratched words into the paint, barely visible in the right light. It said, "Help me." To this day, no one stays in 14B for long. And the air vent? It's been sealed. But sometimes, even through the plaster, you can still hear faint breathing. Narrator, softly. Some places don't just hold memories, they hold the people who can't let go. And if you ever wake up at 3:12 a.m. and smell something metallic in the air, you might want to check your vent.